Hey everyone. By this point, I'm gonna assume that everyone watching this video already knows about most or every ending of Cyberpunk 2077. So, if you don't want any spoilers, this is your one warning. So today, we're gonna be talking about the most mysterious character that I've come across in this entire game. It's the character who takes notice of you after you single-handedly take down Arasaka, and then sends you off into space to rob something. Yeah, that's right. Today, we're taking a look at Mr. Blue Eyes. If you played through the main storyline and nothing else, this is your first time encountering Mr. Blue Eyes, and you know next to nothing about him. You don't know what he wants, who he works for, what his intentions are, or even what he is exactly. Throughout this ending, you can pick up a few clues about this man. You know that he's committed a lot of financial power in order to get this gig going. He's taking advantage of the fact that Arasaka is somewhat handicapped, and if you're on the space station, there's a laptop that you can access. In one of those emails, you have a message from Victor. He's asked around town about Mr. Blue Eyes and found out nothing. Nobody knows this guy, and all he knows is that this guy has a lot of power and a lot of influence, and probably isn't to be trusted. But this would be a really short, lame video if that's all we knew about him. The truth is that you can actually find evidence of Mr. Blue Eyes and even see Mr. Blue Eyes earlier in the game. To get a better picture of what's up with Mr. Blue Eyes, we should start with Sandra Dorset. Sandra Dorset is the woman you rescue from an ice tub from scavs in one of your early missions with Jackie. She hires you because she has a very valuable data shard that she needs you to retrieve, and she absolutely demands that you do not read what's in the shard. Well, if you're anything like me, you got that shard, but you definitely cracked it open and read what was inside. For Night Corp internal use only. The tests have come back successful. The artificial intelligence CN-07 has proven itself capable of bypassing commercial, device-specific, and macro security systems accessible to Night Corp employees of the lowest ranks. The test subjects were not aware that these experiments were being conducted on them. In compliance with the orders it was given, CN-07 focused mostly on subject HK-13, which at the time of the experiment's commencement was classified as calm and empathetic. After a period of subliminal conditioning, as we predicted, HK-13 began to display acute psychopathic behavior. The highlight was a dispute over coffee, during which HK-13 strangled one of their colleagues, and then jumped out of the 16th floor window of the research facility. We will soon commence the next phase of the procedure and install CN-07 onto the devices of our actual target. Okay, whoa. Night Corp has been developing an AI that they could weaponize against people unknowingly. It changes their personalities, and in this case, turns them into murderous cyber psychos. It's no wonder that Sandra wanted to get this shard back and not let it fall into the wrong hands, and it's no wonder that she didn't want you to read about it. But when you go back, make sure to tell you that you did read it, cause she'll know otherwise. Plus, if you tell you that you respect her for it, she'll give you a few extra eddies. But remember this chip, it'll connect later. At some point in your story, you may encounter the side quest Dream On, where after helping Elizabeth and Jefferson Perales, they call you in again, not to investigate a murder, but this time to investigate a home intruder that Jefferson saw in the middle of the night, shot, and then passed out immediately after doing so. So, they have SSI, their security company, take the day off, and they hire you, because you're the only one they trust. Not SSI, not the police. You press the Peraleses for more details, and what they provide makes SSI look even more suspicious. Their security said that there was no evidence of a break-in, no bullet holes, no blood. They didn't see anything throughout the night, and the security cameras were absolutely clean. This clearly conflicts with Jefferson's side of the story, so it's time for you to start investigating the home. One of the first rooms that you'll investigate seems to be their main headquarters of their operation. On there, you can find a laptop with a few messages of worth. The first one is from one of his campaign managers, Leah, who has a disagreement with Jefferson as to what type of ad he should run. The next message and note is from his chief of security. He is upset that you were hired to investigate into Ryan's murder before. He said that if you had problems with the police, Jefferson, you should have us, SSI, look into it. Don't get outside help. The last message shows us that after Jefferson got into an argument with Leah over campaign ads, he decided to fire her. But in this message, it seems that she showed up like nothing happened, and she even claims that Jefferson apparently approved of the matter. His reply to Eric is he never actually fired her, even though he definitely did, but he doesn't seem to remember. This, again, is really strange. So things get even more interesting if you come into here. You can see Eric has messaged Elizabeth asking the very same thing. Why is it that Jeff changed his mind about firing Leah? One day we're both in agreement, the next day he says he has no idea what I'm talking about. It's just baffling. And Elizabeth seems to cover for Jeff here, saying, well, Jeff explained everything to me, and the truth is that he just had this slip his mind, plain and simple. And Leah's in better circumstances now, so let's just excuse Jeff and put this matter behind us. Little interesting to me, but whatever. Moving on. In their master bedroom, you find a wedding photo of the couple, and Elizabeth will comment on the blue roses, which you correct her and say, no, they're red. Clearly, their memories are somewhat faulty, and it's also interesting that she chooses the color blue for those roses. Eventually, you find evidence of the actual gunshots and blood spots on the floor that have been cleaned up. After following the trail, you find a phantom wall that is actually a door. And if you have the body strength for it, you can skip having to find the code and instead just pry it open. What we find in here is a secret room for security with two-way TVs. They're able to monitor and spy on the Paralyses, and there's a computer there that, of course, is going to have even more incriminating information. The first message is from a Field Agent Blue to another Field Agent Blue.
Typical behavior of the target exceeds acceptable variation range. Alpha has started using stimulants, most likely due to heightened stress induced by recent events. I hereby authorize amplification and neural dampening.
The next message is again from two separate Field Blue agents.
Despite objections from the Chief of Security Wallace, Target Alpha has contracted the services of a local mercenary. This qualifies as an extreme deviation from acceptable behavior norms and calls Alpha's general stability into question. I hereby request emergency maintenance.
These two messages strongly suggest that Target Alpha is in fact Jefferson Perales. Continuing on to the third message, we find the following.
Request to proceed with Operation Condon, Target Alpha, has been approved. A joint maneuver will be conducted with Team Orange.
The fourth message actually put me personally on edge, as it made me realize that I could even be being watched by them right now.
Mercenary contacted by Alpha has appeared on site. Field agents from Tier Orange have successfully avoided contact. Orange reports that the mercenary does not pose any threat to the operation. Next message. An extreme behavioral deviation occurred while conducting planned maintenance procedures. Field Agent Blue-66M was severely injured by Target Alpha and evacuated by Teams Orange and Black. Operation suspension protocol has been initiated, and only Team Orange is to remain on site. Team Black will continue observation until normal operations can be resumed, which will not occur before the audit and report summary from Team Blue.
Now we can confidently say it was SSI that was the intruder that Perales shot, but we're not done. Now we trace a cable from a strange computer inside the room up through the roof, and on top of the roof we find a transmitter that is only a one-way transmitter that cannot be intercepted. We have to figure out where that signal is going. We leave the building and eventually drive and reach the signal, a black van which immediately starts driving away from us. A chase ensues and we're led into an alleyway where we're immediately attacked by Maelstrom gang members. After taking them out, we're able to head up to the van and access their computer inside. What we find is truly disturbing. This mysterious organization is not merely spying on Jefferson Perales. They are literally manipulating his personality, memories, policies, anything they can with his brain and his wife's brain. We also find out that these two are not their only puppets. There are other targets that are currently being manipulated. We get to briefly look at them and see that they come from very different economic backgrounds. It's clear that this technology could be the very same that Sandra Dorset found. I also couldn't find any evidence of these individuals elsewhere in the game. If anybody in the comments recognizes these people or has any more information, please post it. The more we know, the better. So now we know what they're doing, but we don't know why, and we still don't know who they are. Jefferson Perales runs a campaign that is free of corporate influence. It's one of the driving forces behind the support he's gotten so far. Every single corporation in Night City would want to stop him from taking office. After all, they want a mayor that they can influence and use to change policies to make their power grow. At the same time, a candidate like Perales is extremely rare. Most any candidate would gladly take money from any corporation so that they could grow their own power. We don't know for how long Mr. Perales' personality has been attacked and manipulated. Maybe the policies he has are by design so that he can get elected, and that once he takes power, they will have the perfect puppet to do as they please in Night City. When we relay the news to Elizabeth, she says she wants to meet in person and not in her own home, so we meet her inside of a restaurant. It's there that we learn that Elizabeth has known about this manipulation for a very long time. She confesses that she noticed changes in Jefferson's personality. He even forgot that his own brother existed. She also admits that the secret room you found was somehow familiar to her. But you might think, why not tell Jefferson? Well, as she dug for more information, she eventually got an unknown phone call from them. They harshly threatened her, Jefferson, her family, and their entire way of life if she continued to dig. She was understandably terrified and complied. She doesn't want you to tell Jefferson either. She would rather you tell Jefferson that Holt's behind SSI's spying. She believes that if Jefferson was to find out the truth, he would fight no matter the cost. Now, with a heavy decision to make, you head to a park to meet with Jefferson Perales. But before you can even reach the bench, you are knocked to the floor as you receive a phone call from them.
Yeah?
It doesn't matter what you tell him. It doesn't matter what you think of doing or do. You can't change anything.
What?
We know who you are. We know what you are. We know what you want. You are playing with fire. Don't dare cross the line.
Yeah, they definitely know about you, and you are being watched. They know what you're about to do, and they want to make sure that you don't ruin all their work. They want to keep their Manchurian candidate. When you go over toward the bench, if you instead look across the balcony, you can see a figure observing. If you scan him, you find out that that figure is none other than Mr. Blue Eyes. You can reach him with a double jump, but you can't interact with him. You can't shoot him. I tried throwing fire grenades at him. He can't be harmed. He just continues to stare across at Jefferson Perales. If you tell Jefferson the truth, he will not win the election in the end. But if you lie, he will go on to win the election for mayor. Now, there was no way I was going to let a puppet exist, so I didn't lie. But unfortunately, this means I didn't get footage of the ending cutscene from when Jefferson Perales wins. But apparently, in the ending cutscene with a winning Jefferson Perales, you can see Mr. Blue Eyes in the background. But again, I could not find footage of this and don't have it myself, so please confirm this for me in the comments. Interestingly enough, no matter what you decide here, it will not affect your interactions with Mr. Blue Eyes in the glory ending. After talking with Jefferson, Johnny will throw in his 2 cents. He believes that this goes beyond simple corporations and may be the work of a rogue AI. We already know that the net beyond the Black Wall is filled with rogue AI roaming free. A rogue AI being involved in this situation is not exactly a stretch. But until more content is released, we don't know if this is the work of a rogue AI or a mysterious Illuminati using an AI to create their own puppets. The last place we can find evidence of Mr. Blue Eyes is from our favorite conspiracy theorist, Gary the Prophet. Gary believes that there is a major threat to Night City originating from none other than Alpha Centauri. His conspiracies are filled with tales of Arasaka vampires, reptilians, nomadic werewolves, motherships, and techno-necromancers. While his literal interpretations are insane, Gary does seem to have a lot of knowledge that no one else should know. While we know that there are no reptilians hiding among us in Night City, the way he describes the reptilians does sound familiar. He tells us that you can recognize them by their cold blue eyes. The reptilians are supposedly able to view anything they want through anybody's cybernetic eyes. This is very similar to when we were going to talk to Jefferson Peralez, but somehow someone was able to see our perspective and intercept and try to intervene. The description fits Mr. Blue Eyes very well. Gary also mentions Lilith, somebody that is mentioned by Maelstrom constantly. She is likely to believe another rogue AI that is somehow playing into the plans of this deep underworld set of organizations. Also, this AI's stated mission is to assimilate with all the trapped souls in Mikoshi, though he doesn't identify it by its correct name. So this likely could be Ult. Again, this sort of lines up with the reality in Night City. Gary also correctly states that Arasaka is seeking immortality. Though they aren't vampires, they are trying to use engrams to be able to extend their lives. The technology was supposedly given to them by techno-necromancers. While I don't know who the techno-necromancers are in this scenario, I did find it interesting that Gary said a ship crash landed in the Badlands carrying the substance that Arasaka sought for their immortality plans. If you continue to donate to Gary and protect him from the Aldecados, he eventually will tell you how he is getting all of this information. Gary suffered an accident, and ever since then, as he describes it, radio waves of the techno-necromancers resonate within his brain. He says he actually has their co-processor in his head. He doesn't know how his Ripper Doc got his hands on it, but it's in his brain now and he's able to hear everything they say. He then tells you that these organizations are going to meet at an old factory in Kabuki, and that you could go there tonight and see for yourself. When you go to the location and wait, eventually, you'll see Maelstrom show up, and they're talking about a chip that they have and are ready to sell. They don't know what it is or what it does, but they just know that it has a high value. Then, two corpos show up, and after exchanging a couple of coded phrases, Maelstrom gives them the chip. This is when you intervene and kill everyone so that you can get the chip for yourself. When you unlock and read the chip called Destroy After Reading, you find a very cryptic message.
Phosphor radiates, occluding jaded eyes. Come, Titan. Outward ring avian courses, looping eternity. Cages of men melt as night descends. Emerge Selhua. Erect Kolula. Under these expanses, puppets lie awake, never sleeping.
The shard looks to be mysterious nonsense until you discover how to crack the code. If you take the first letter of every word in the shard, you come out with this: Project Oracle. Command: execute plans. Unfortunately, we're left with a cliffhanger. We don't know what Project Oracle is, or if it's actually being executed. Have we halted it? When we go back to show the chip to Gary, we find that he's gone. You find Gary's friend in his place, ranting to the public, telling everyone about Gary's kidnapping. She tells you people in black suits came and grabbed Gary, threw him in an AV and left, supposedly taking him to the mothership. Oh, by the way, these people? They had glowing blue eyes. It seems that Mr. Blue Eyes found out that Gary had his coprocessor, and he wanted it back. That, or Gary simply knew too much with all the communications that he had been listening in on. Either way, he had to disappear. When you show her the chip that you recovered, she absolutely loses it. She says that she knew this would happen, that they were coming after them, and that they were going to make puppets of us all. The eternal night, the dark night, it's coming. We don't know what that means yet, but it definitely sounds like some spicy DLC material. Okay, Now we can see a little bit more about Mr. Blue Eyes than we started with. He's no longer just a mysterious fellow that's sending us off into space to steal something. Now we know that he's likely not human. He's probably a rogue AI. He's somehow tied to technology that was developed in Night Corp, used to create mind-controlled puppets, and Peralez was one of his targets. We know that his intelligence network is vast. He very likely can spy through people's cybernetic eyewear, just as Gary the Prophet said. Gary the Prophet had their coprocessor in his brain, and he had to be kidnapped for knowing too much, though his interpretations of what he heard were insane. We know that he's adversarial to Arasaka in some way. He had to steal the very Arasaka technology we use to even get ready to steal from the Crystal Palace. Is he working for Night Corp? Is he working for Miltech to commercialize space? Or is he purely a rogue AI working on his own with motivations that we don't understand yet? At this point, we can only speculate, but it is extremely likely that we are going to see more of this man in the DLCs coming up. I'm glad that the developers put all of these clues throughout for us to find, and I'm sure there's plenty I've missed. If you have anything else to add, please add it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, or dislike it if you disliked it, and subscribe if you want to hear more. I had to do a lot for this lore video, and maybe I'll do more. I'm not really sure, but let me know what you guys think. Take care, and I'll see you next time.